Aberdeen, a history of family and farm. I went into the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. In the midst of this chopping sea of civilized life, my only advice is to live simply and live sincerely. Walden, Henry David Thoreau. Aberdeen Farm is a simple place. What makes it unique isn't that it holds so many beautiful things, for beauty can be found almost anywhere you're willing to look. What makes it unique is that it gives you back to yourself. It's a place away from worry, away from fear, a place away from obligation and the world's anxious commotion. Here, time slows. Magic exists. And love thrives. Aberdeen has been in the Freed family for over 70 years. It is our anchor. It keeps us together in the midst of that chopping sea. It's where we remember how important we are to one another, and that the human spirit is made for more than what today's world has in store for it. But how did it come to be? How did we get here? While we can't account for all its history, the land's first documented owner was the King of England. In the 1700s, as the colonies started to expand in the Hudson Valley, the land was granted to a group of Dutch settlers known as the Great Nine Partners. In 1741, a Dutch farmer named Joost Garrison purchased 212 acres from one of the nine. He built the farmhouse that stands at the front of Aberdeen today. The now wooded areas of our property were once open fields used for farming grain and dairy. In 1876, the land was purchased by Marietta Cookingham Frost, for whom the hamlet of Frost Mills was named. Both the Cookingham and Frost families have descendants still living in properties near our own. By 1925, the land belonged to the Brooklyn and Queens YMCA and was used as a boys' camp. One of the vestiges of their time here is still present in the form of a fire pit in Bowes Field. But from here, we can rely on personal accounts.
This is a pleasure to talk about the farm and its history. My parents, Albert and Edna, had an apartment in New York. They had moved out of Great Neck, and the goal was to have an apartment in New York and a farm in the country. And they had taken a weekend and gone up into Vermont and didn't see anything they liked in Vermont. And a friend asked them to stop in Poughkeepsie, and there was an ad in the paper. And they called the ad, and it was a gentleman named Wilkinson, and they arranged to visit the farm. The visit was, I remember because I was with them, and it was my 15th birthday. And on April 15th of 1941, we went from the farm back roads, because the Taconic was not built past Poughkeepsie at that point, and we went down to a diner on Route 55, and they got a piece of cake with a candle for me, and the discussion was all about the farm. You could never see today, and each room has a different material in it because it was to be a demonstration house. And we had a similar thing here. Mother and Dad said it would be great if we had quarters across the way so that we could have help stay there. And after Dad and signed for the property. Wilkinson said work went up, and that was his gift to us. I must add that Wilkinson was a wonderful gentleman. He and Dad became very close friends. He came up here after he built the house with his wife. He had a son and a daughter, and he came up here, and she saw a snake and she would never come back. The reason it's named Aberdeen is because Mother and Dad were married at Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland I remember the date is very easy to remember, 6/12/18. And the war was still on, or it was just over, and they got married at Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and they decided if they got married at Aberdeen, they would spend the rest of their life at Aberdeen, and that is how the farm got its name.
We just felt this affinity because we were so alike as people, I think. And Edna used to say to me, I can walk with you. We'd walk up, way up past where people walk now for the most part. We'd walk all around the place and just sometimes talk, sometimes not even talk. But we were just sort of like souls.
And that kind of takes us through to where I came to the farm. I was married to Lindsay McAllister. That's just how Lindsay gets her name. I was married in 1950. We had an apartment in Poughkeepsie, and I was with a company called Nielsen Gage, and then left Nielsen Gage and started a business up here in 1952, and we moved into the farmhouse. The farmhouse was built in 1743 and is in the historical record books of old farmhouses. It had a wonderful, long life. The fireplace we decided to take back down to the brick. Fireplace had 13 coats of paint on it. And the house needed upgrading and repair and so on. We spent every weekend, we spent 2 days, all day, working on the house. And after about 2 years, some friends came up and I was on a ladder touching up some paint. And I said, go ahead, look around the house. So they walked around and looked around the house and came back in and said, this house has possibilities. And that was the last work I did in that. I always called it the House of Possibilities. Basically, there were three of us. There was Marion, an author, and me. Marion was 7 years older than I. And we really, with that difference, for example, she was in college when I was going into middle school. But Dad was very, very kind, very thoughtful, and he built his business, which was a company called Freitag Manufacturing. The business was basically infants' wear, various things for infants. He had a very difficult time in 1930 because in the Depression, in 3 months, he lost half of his net worth. And then his brother, Hugo, who was in the business with him. Hugo took care of manufacturing and Dad took care of sales. Hugo dropped dead. So Arthur and my father had a discussion because Arthur worked for Freitag. And it was decided that he would sell and retire to the country. He died in 1961 in the back room, sitting in a chair. His last words were, "Be kind to everybody," which was the way he lived his life. He had come over from Germany when he was 10 years old. His family, I am told, there were 13 children. He was by far the youngest. One brother was here and brought him over, and he started at age 10 with a job at Freitag as not the shipping clerk, but the shipping room clerk. He handled the boxes and the storage and so on. So, well, let's start with what it meant to my father. This was really their place of life, and they took great pride. Mother had a garden. She grew raspberries and grapes, which is in the goat area now. And their great joy was living here and having the lake and having people be here. With Florence said one day, because she was concerned about her children, and she said, how did all of your children turn out so pleasant and so well? And Florence said, oh, I know how that was. Joe raised them. So in a lot of degree, Joe, in her earlier years, raised the rest of the family.
There are big families I know, but this is the most closely knit that I know. Oh yeah, there's a definite resemblance among all of you. I don't mean that you look just like somebody or that you act just like somebody, but there's something of all of you in each other, I would say.
So, 2 gave birth to 3, who all came to the farm. They gave life to 9, who produced a crew of between 16 and 20, depending on how you count.
Just the generation of the kind of feeling that's here from the family enhances this and makes people feel welcome, but it also makes you want to keep it going.
Well, what you all are doing is such a privilege and pleasure for me that it's unbelievable. To know that not just the children, but the grandchildren that I have, and others just get the joy out of this place that my father saw and that I saw.
I see many changes from what it was like a year or 2 ago. It was like just a place to hang out before, but now it's really getting started up again. And I think there will be a lot of changes and more business and a lot of exciting things.
While the face of the land has changed over time, its spirit remains the same. Should you ever need a reminder of this, simply place a picture from a time almost forgotten beside an image of today. Trees have grown and fallen. Gardens have been replanted. Paths have been paved. Vows have been taken. And people have come and gone. But the spirit of Aberdeen endures. Aberdeen is a place for simplicity, a place for family, a place to live sincerely, a place for love. And to think it's all because of a snake.